Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. It was back in 2018 that I discovered a show streaming on Netflix called Babylon Berlin. I had no prior knowledge of it. All I knew going in was it looked like a historical neo-noir, which is a genre that I absolutely love. I started watching it and was pleased to find it was even better than I had anticipated. Since it was on Netflix and truly a great show, I honestly thought more people would be talking about it by now. The show seems to be successful in Europe, where it's made, but I don't hear any mention of it in the States. With the final season coming soon, I thought it would be a good time to discuss how good Babylon Berlin is and why you should watch it. Here's a synopsis. It's 1929 in Germany, and Police Inspector Gerion Rath has been transferred from his small-town police role to the Berlin Vice Squad, introducing him to the depth and depravity of a post-war city that's also the capital of the losing side. As he continues to learn more information on the criminal underground, he begins to uncover a sinister conspiracy that overlaps with various other agendas. We also meet Charlotte Ritter, a lower-class woman trying to make a living for herself so she can support her family. She looks for any work she can find, which brings her to the police station to perform clerical jobs. But she wants something more. Her wish is granted when a new police inspector named Gerion recruits her to help him with his investigation. Alongside our two protagonists, we're also introduced to a rich ensemble cast, whose stories start out seemingly separate but begin to cross over and converge in surprising and satisfying ways. It all begins with a train crossing over from Russia to Germany in the dead of night, when it's suddenly stopped and hijacked. Why? To add a car to the train, and that car will be the MacGuffin that sets everything else in motion. I heard somewhere that the creators of the show were seeing all of the prestige television coming out of the US and UK, and they thought to themselves, why hasn't Germany made their own version of that? Babylon Berlin was the answer to that question, and I think they succeeded above and beyond their aspirations. The mysteries throughout the show are gripping and thought-provoking, and the fact that they're based in a historical reality makes them all the more interesting to learn about. I think this show is highlighting a chapter in history that's often overlooked, that being the Weimar Republic. I honestly didn't even know what that was before watching this show, which is sad because it really has many parallels to current times in a way that we can learn from it and apply those lessons to today. And me not being educated about the history, watched the show for the first time and thought to myself, where are the Nazis? Let's stick a pin in that and we'll come back to it. The cast is exceptional. I'd list their names, but I know I butcher them, so I'll throw them up here. I'm sure it's a combination of performance and writing, but the characters always feel believably human. Nobody is a cartoon villain or patron saint. They're all capable of making poor choices, and it brings a lot of nuance to the various plotlines. The soundtrack recreates the Roaring Twenties sound with modern sensibilities, giving us the closest possible impression to how it would have sounded to contemporary audiences in that period. The show has a genius way of bringing music into the world of the show, that being a popular nightclub that most of the characters show up to at some point. And whenever they're at the nightclub, there has to be music. The music can at times be intense and chaotic, and at others slow and thoughtful, but always a joy for the ears. The noir style of the show is fresh in today's media landscape and more fun than I would have expected. From the opening spotlight of every episode to the rooftop chases in Moonglow, and enough cigarette smoke to fumigate Berlin, the show really delivers on the noir aesthetics while making it more accessible to modern audiences. The titles for the show are easily some of the best that I've ever seen, and you just need to see it for yourself to understand. If it's not already obvious, I can't praise this show enough, and I encourage everyone to check it out. I really think it's got something for everybody. The next two sections of the video will make the most sense if you've already seen the show, so just keep that in mind before going forward. In this section of the video, I want to rank the 4 seasons that have come out so far. For this ranking, I'll just go from worst to best, starting with Season 3. The show doesn't have a bad season to be clear, but this one is just the weakest in my opinion. It often feels disconnected from the series' spanning arc in a way that can make it feel like filler at times. That being said, I think it's still a good season, and there's some great moments along the way that make it worth not skipping over. Right above that is Season 4. Bringing back the series-spanning arc in full force, it feels like a return to form from seasons 1 and 2. I think it's a good season in its own right, but it also does a great job at setting up the direction of the final season that we have yet to see. I view seasons 1 and 2 as a package deal, as they share an overarching story, making them feel like one longer season, but for the sake of this ranking, I'll bring myself to separate them. Season 2 is fittingly in second place, as it brings a satisfying conclusion to all of the arcs introduced in Season 1, and it works as a satisfying stopping point if anyone chose not to continue watching. Season 1 is first place for being a perfect time capsule for the setting. The First World War still looms large over everything, as no one thinks anything worse is yet to come. The rich are obscenely rich, and the poor are destitute, and there are a few in the middle struggling just to stay where they are. Radical politics are surfacing on all fronts, because even though the people technically live in a democracy, many of them don't feel that's the case for one reason or another. Our protagonist Garyon fought in the World War, and when we first meet him, he's struggling with severe PTSD. Of the few I've even seen try, I think this show gives the best subjective depiction of struggling with it, in an insightful way that allows you to empathize with Garyon at a point when we don't know much about him. Just amazing television with substance. In this section, I'll be discussing spoiler-specific details from throughout the show, so you've all been warned. Let's come back to that idea we stuck a pin in earlier. Where are the Nazis in this show? In seasons 1 and 2, we see various political organizations working in Berlin to accomplish their respective goals. But at first the Nazis are nowhere to be seen. They aren't even mentioned. Throughout the show, we meet a friend of Charlotte Ritter named Greta, and she meets a communist who she falls in love with. During a protest, he appears to be gunned down by the police, and Greta flees the scene. A friend of the communist recruits Greta to help him get revenge on the police, and she helps him plant a bomb in the house of one of the police higher-ups who's allegedly responsible. The bomb succeeds in hitting its target, but when Greta tries to get away from it all by heading to the train station, she's confronted with something out of a horror movie. First, she sees a large group of men in brown shirts causing commotion. And then she notices that the man that she just thought was dead was alive and in that group. She runs up to him only for him to feign ignorance and claim that he has no idea who she is. The man she fell in love with has been secretly working for the SA arm of the Nazi party this whole time, and he'd use her to help them make the communists look like terrorists while also targeting the police higher-up who happened to be Jewish. They were there the whole time, and we just didn't notice them until they were already a problem. By the time we get to season 4, they're much closer to being in power, and have become unavoidable. I can imagine that's how it might have looked to someone on the ground in that time. This group forming out of nowhere and all of a sudden invading all aspects of life. Once you realize where it's all heading, it becomes impossible to not keep watching. Another spoiler worth bringing up is the revelation that Garyon's brother, who was thought to be killed in the First War, actually survived and has been meddling with Garyon's life almost like a puppet master. By the end of season 4, we have an idea of what his goals may be, but his motives remain rather mysterious. Learning more about his plans is one of the aspects of the upcoming season that I'm most excited for. I just hope that they stick the landing, but I have faith they will. The show truly has it all. Mystery, action, romance, comedy, drama, history, you name it. I think if you give it a shot, you'll find something that resonates with you. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, especially if you think you'll be catching up on the show in anticipation for the final season. And if you have seen the show, let us know your thoughts as well. As for me, I think the show is officially wowza!